SMD Law is the official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Check them out on the interwebs at smdalaw.com or at 866-529-3537. No matter where you are in the state of Michigan, Upper Peninsula, Lower Peninsula, it doesn't matter. They have an office near you. So whether you need to send a letter to an annoying neighbor, or you're a criminal and you need defense, maybe you just have problems with elder law, check them out, smdalaw.com today. The official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Call them first, then you act.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back, Spartan Nation Radio. We now head down to Bloomington to talk with Tom Brew. Tom is the editor and publisher of our fellow Sports Illustrated Maven site, doing a good job covering the Hoosiers. It's good to have him here. You can make sure you go check out Hoosier Maven, of course, presented by SI. Tom, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, Hondo. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you joining us tonight. It's good to have you as part of the team.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. It's great to be back amongst the Big Ten brethren, and looking forward to a fun Saturday and a fun weekend in East Lansing.
Are you coming up for the game, Tom?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Okay, good. So, Tom, Indiana comes in 3-1, and we know they can score points against teams that don't have a good defense, but against Ohio State that had a good defense, they only put 10 on the board. And Michigan State's defense, quite frankly, is the best in the country. I know that several people have said that nationally. I've seen them every week. I think they're that good. I'm just curious your thoughts. Let's start with the Indiana offense. If Ramsey's a quarterback, to me, I think they're a different team with Ramsey. Again, I want your thoughts because you're the expert. I'm not. Give me your read on the Indiana offense, please.
Well, Hondo, the big thing about Indiana's offense through 4 games is that, the whole quarterback battle in fall camp for picking a starter, it was all about the redshirt freshman Michael Penix Jr. winning the job. And he won that job because he's got a huge arm. He can really stretch the field and go deep. And, he had a 75-yard touchdown in the first game. He had another one that should have been an 80-yard touchdown when it was dropped. Second game, he had another big ball. I mean, he really can stretch the field with his arm. And, Indiana's got a lot of really good receivers and a lot of veteran receivers. And that's what this offense was going to be predicated on. Well, then now he got hurt, and Peyton Ramsey had to play. And, everybody kind of knows Peyton Ramsey. He's one of those sort of efficient dink and dunk guys, and that's about it. And he can't really get the ball down the field. He does not have a big arm at all. And, it changes everything. So it's, it's hard to determine, exactly how good this offense is because Ohio State's defense is very, very good. And Eastern Illinois and UConn, didn't really provide much competition. Although, I watched a lot of UConn and Illinois the week before, and that was a competitive game, and Indiana just crushed them, and it scored at all 6 of their scoring drives were 9 plays or better, 68 yards or better. They just marched up and down the field the whole game on them. So it's so there was some positive signs there, but again, level of competition is all what it's all about, and Michigan State's rush defense and their front 7, I'll agree with you, best in the country. But I think if Penix can play, that maybe they can throw on Michigan State secondary a little bit and break some big plays.
Tom, I want to ask you, that's a great point you made, and let me tell you why I think Ramsey is better for them against Michigan State. I'd love your input. I think Penix is a great downfield thrower, but Michigan State's got 3 NFL corners that are going to be drafted that they rotate in there. And people have not had a ton of success throwing deep against them, but short passes and then going for yak is where they've been killed. And that's
right.
Where I think Ramsey hurts him because that is his specialty. Against almost any other team, I would agree with Penix. But because of that Michigan State's, if the defense had an Achilles heel, it would be the dink and dunk. Do you see it? I'm not asking if you agree, but do you at least see my point there with Ramsey?
Well, I see your point, but I cannot agree with you.
Okay.
I really can't. Because Penix can make those small throws too. And he also has the ability. Like to me, the biggest difference in this game is between the two of them is that Michigan State pass rush is so good, and their ability to stop the run is so good that where Indiana would have some success maybe is with some broken plays where Penix can just take off running himself. He's much better at that than Peyton Ramsey is. So I think a little bit of that, the occasional sort of playground football aspect of his game would come into play there. But I have had the luxury / misfortune of having to watch a lot of Michigan State games here in the last couple of years, where we're watching that offense defend so hard. But I have an enormous amount of respect for that defense. But I have, and from watching them too, in the last couple of years, there's been some teams that have thrown the ball with a lot of success against Michigan State.
Yes, sir.
And it can happen. And I think and there's Indiana is not going to be able to run the ball against Michigan State at all. I mean, I'm already prepared for that, and I'm already prepared for whoever plays quarterback, having to throw it 45, 50 times, and that's going to be the thing. But they're in my book. They're in no disrespect to Peyton Ramsey in any way, but in my book, there's a single sentence I could tell you that would start with Peyton Ramsey is better than Michael Penix at ... There's not. I mean, Michael Penix, the country hasn't really seen this kid yet because he only got to play a game and a half, and he got hurt last year after a quarter. But this kid, he's very smart. He knows the playbook like the back of his hand already. And I'm not just saying that as the homer guy, because I have a lot of Florida roots. I've known about this kid since he was a sophomore in high school. So I've monitored him through the years. I've monitored his Tennessee recruitment, his Florida State recruitment, his rise up the ranks. And for Indiana to get him was a huge yes. And I think he's going to be great. But, the biggest thing is he needs to be 100% healthy to play Saturday, and he's not going out there unless he is, because it's going to, but we'll see. So it's, that's the big question heading into 3:30 Saturday, is we're not going to know until then. There doesn't behoove Indiana in any way to let Michigan State know who's going to play quarterback. So they'll let Michigan State have to prepare for both, and then we'll see how it goes.
He's Tom Brew. He does a good job with our Sports Illustrated Maven site, Hoosier Maven, and that's why we have him on, because he's the Indiana expert. There's some great insight there on Penix that I wasn't aware of. Tom, I'm just going to ask you your gut. They're not going to say anything till Saturday, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't either. What does your gut tell you? Who's going to be the starting quarterback?
Well, I just finished writing it earlier today and posted exactly that. I really do think that Michael Penix is going to be the starting quarterback on Saturday, and they've been obviously it's been 2 weeks since he got hurt. It'll be 3 weeks by Saturday. They've been very quiet about what even the injury is and what the rehab he's been going through. But Tom Allen did say today that he fully expects him to practice all week and see how he feels and see how he does. And so my gut instinct is that he play on Saturday because this is a huge game for Indiana. It's for them to talk. There's this, as you well know, there's this line of demarcation in the Big Ten East. You've got all the big boys. You've got the Ohio States and the Michigan States and the Penn States and Michigan. Who have these centuries old pedigrees of national championships and big years and all that stuff. And then you have below that line the Indianas and the Marylands and the Rutgers who hope someday to be there. Well, Tom Allen has preached since he got there, changing this program around. Well, to get out of that lower group and into the bigger group, it starts with beating teams like Michigan State every once in a while. And, they feel like after two pretty decent recruiting classes that they can compete, so now it's a matter of going up there and doing it. And, the Ohio State game obviously was a huge letdown. It got away from them a little bit. And then when it did, it got away from them a lot, but, they just, they've learned from that, and their phrase is they flushed it, and they are really looking forward, to having an opportunity, with a lot of eyeballs on them this Saturday to prove that they are a better team and that they can compete with someone like Michigan State.
It's great having Tom on the show. Tom, I want to switch it to defense now. Here is my question for you. The Michigan State offense, I'm still not sold on them. I made a lot of Spartans angry, after the Western Michigan game when I said, folks, this is Western. And they played Western and did good. Then they go out and lose to Arizona State where they look terrible. Then they come back and they beat Northwestern. And I said, hey, there's reasons to be optimistic, but it's still Northwestern. How good is this Indiana defense?
Well, here's the thing with that. I think that through 4 games, Indiana's season has sort of mirrored Michigan State's season to a great degree, because how good is Michigan State's offense based on what they did against Western, or even even that first game against Tulsa, their offense I didn't think was very good at all. And against Northwestern's defense was so bad that Michigan State was playing on a lot of short fields. I mean, they scored 31 points and didn't even have 300 yards of offense. It's just I just don't think Michigan State's offense is that good. I really don't. And Ohio State's offense. I was one of those guys at the beginning of the year who thought, well, maybe they might drop a notch under Ryan Day with Urban Meyer leaving, and they haven't. They haven't missed a beat. I have a lot of respect for that Cincinnati team. And Ohio State beat them 42-0, and Cincinnati barely crossed midfield twice, I think. It's just their defense is really good. Because they've, I'll take Michigan State, front over theirs just barely, but I think Ohio State's got loads of talent at all 3 levels and loads of depth where they never let up, and and then their offense is just unbelievable. And, so they made Indiana look really bad that day. But Indiana also had just a horrible tackling day that day, that wound up, accounting for 181 yards of Ohio State offense after contact, which is just ridiculous. They just, Dobbins, it was, they just didn't wrap up very well. And, they broke a lot of big runs on, a lot of big plays on them. And, so Indiana's defense, I think, is way better. It's the wave of the young kids that they've recruited in the last couple of years who really make this defense, kind of unique. Cam Jones, who's a sophomore linebacker, is really having a great year so far. Raekwon Jones, who's a senior, has just sort of been the leader. But they've been rotating a lot of guys on the defensive front. They've been much better against the run for the most part. Even Ohio State, they had a lot of 3 yards or less type stops where they've been good with it. But we'll see. As you well know, Michigan State has really kind of struggled to run the ball in the last couple of years, and that was a lot of what I'm going to be writing for a story here in a couple of days. Is that's what's going to be the key to Indiana. They have to be able to stop the run early and then make Michigan State's offense one-dimensional. Because I think if they can stop the run, and force Brian to beat them, that might lead to some turnovers and such. So we'll have to see. But there's I think obviously this matchup of Michigan State's so-so offense against Indiana's so-so but getting better defense, I think is going to really be the determining factor in this game here. I think it's on that side of the ball where I'm thinking of this as being a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter, and it's can Michigan State make a drive late if they have to, or can Indiana's defense stop them if they need, if they've got a lead? I think that's kind of where it's going to be at. And they've got a lot of young talent. They fly around the ball, a lot, and and they'll hit people. So we'll see. And but for a lot of these kids too, it's also really their first road game. So it's that's and Spartan Stadium, it can be an intimidating place at times, and it gets to be a very physical game. So we'll have to see how they hold up with that. But I think going into it, they've just got this huge chip on their shoulder after being embarrassed by Ohio State, and I don't think they want that to happen again.
Again, Tom is the editor-publisher of Hoosier Maven, which is part of Sports Illustrated, as Spartan Nation is. We're glad to have him here. Tom, let's quickly turn to Coach Allen. I like him. I like him personally, and I like him as a coach. I love the way he's recruiting. He's got 2 good classes in a row. I'm just curious. Indiana, to me, since Hep, has kind of been their own internal enemy. And my question for you is this. Are the fans going to get tired, or are they going to stick with him? Because I'm going to tell you this: I think he is your best opportunity to be great since Hep. I think he can really do a lot. Again, I love the way he coaches. I love the way he recruits. I think he's a perfect fit. I don't know the mood of the fan base there, so I'm curious. Can you tell us what it is towards Allen?
Well, I think the mood is good. I think certainly Indiana's fan base really respects him a lot as a person, and really respects the type of player he's bringing in here. I've known, I have a lot of my newspaper ties go back to Florida, so I've known Tom Allen for a long, long time, and a lot of the high school coaches down in Florida who've been sending, Indiana has 25 scholarship players on their roster now from Florida. They've recruited down there really, really well. And a lot of those people have a lot of respect for him, where I think that pipeline is going to continue. And that's, so Indiana, Indiana was horrible in football for years and years and years because they just never had the speed to keep up with the best teams in the Big Ten. Well, now they're getting that. It's like, I did a radio show in Florida last week, and for instance, like Indiana's wide receivers, Donovan Hale is from Largo, Florida. Nick Westbrook is from Lake Mary, Florida. Wap Fillier is from Tampa, Florida. And I made the argument that Indiana's Florida wide receivers are better than Florida State, Florida, and Miami's wide receivers this year. And it's true. It really is. These guys were all a bunch of 3-star recruits out of Indiana who've had great careers. And so I think a lot of people like what he's done. The recruiting has been, it's been, their 2 highest ranked recruiting classes ever, the last 2 years, which is great. But even if they're a mid-30s recruiting class, I mean, that's going to get you, that's going to get you 7 and 5 at best, and 3 and 6 in the Big Ten at best. They need to take even that next step beyond that. And of course, they got to be able to coach to keep people up, So it's, and they've done that. I think he's made good adjustments on getting the coordinators in there that he wants now. They're both first-year coordinators this year, but they've got good track records. Kalen DeBoer, the new offensive coordinator, had 2 tremendous years at Fresno State these past 2 years, and everybody likes him. And Kane Womack is the defensive coordinator. He's only 32 years old. He's already had 4 years of DC experience at smaller schools, and his dad, Dave Womack, was the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss and Georgia Tech forever, and they run, Tom ran Dave Womack's system on defense, and Kane runs Tom's system, and it's, so I think they have the pieces in place. And of course, Mike Hart, everybody knows Mike from up there in Michigan. He's the running backs coach, and he's really recruited Michigan really well, and good bits of Florida really well, and everybody loves David Ellis, the kid from Michigan, was here as a freshman now. So I think the potential's there, but they can't ever take a step back in recruiting. They need to continue to have the best ever recruiting classes because for years and years Indiana was 13th or 14th in the Big Ten recruiting every single year, and you're not going to win the Big Ten East with that. You're not going to you might even occasionally beat one of the 4, but you're not going to beat 3 out of the 4 in any given year until you recruit better, and they've done that. I do think the Penix kid is a legitimate star. Stevie Scott, the running back, is off to a slow start this year, but true freshman last year had 1,100 something yards. They've got 3 or 4 guys on defense, young guys that I think will become NFL players. I mean, they're coming. So it's, and obviously they need to prove that now. So it's like, they need to be in a situation where they can beat some people. And it's, and that's, to me, I have said since August that for Indiana to have a successful Big Ten season, that includes going to East Lansing and getting a win. I mean, it's just, if you want to make improvement, then those teams that are right in front of you in the pecking order, you've got to beat them every once in a while. And Indiana's, they haven't beaten Ohio State since 1988. They've only beaten Michigan once in 30 years. They've only beaten Penn State once ever. They've beaten Michigan State a few times in those Michigan State down years, but they haven't beaten Michigan State with any sort of consistency at all. And they sort of need to. When I broke down their schedule this year, I said that they need to, Michigan State on the road and Penn State on the road are tough. But if that's the next step up on the ladder, you got to find a way to win one of those games. And, I don't know if they can do it. I really don't, Hondo, but I think they're getting there. And I think we're going to see a very good, very competitive game on Saturday that's going to come down to who makes plays in the fourth quarter.
I agree with you. He is Tom Brew, the editor and publisher of our Sports Illustrated Maven site, Hoosier Maven. Make sure you check it out. We've been retweeting and putting all of his stories up from this week on our community page. Keep looking for it. We'll be back. Page, keep looking for it. We'll be back. Page, keep looking for it. We'll be